Really what I wanted to get to is the big transfer story, or I say transfer story, maybe contract story. Kylian Mbappe, we weren't quite sure what was going to be happening with his future. It looked as though at one point he was heading to Spain and Real Madrid were going to be getting his signature, but no, it's now been revealed he's staying at PSG in what is a contract that is quite mind-boggling. It's a pay package understood to be worth about £4 million a month for Kylian Mbappe, which will make him the highest earner in the game. There's also, there was always with these sort of mega deals, the issue over the rights, isn't it? And that's what sometimes a lot of these deals come down to. So the image rights and all that had to be taken into account as well. What do you make then of this Kylian Mbappe story? And that's before we get into what La Liga has made of it all, which I'll get your thoughts on in just a moment. But.
Well, they've offered him, they might have offered him Paris. Give him Paris as a capital city, or maybe even give him France. They were basically doing whatever they could to keep him. Yeah. An offer that obviously, as in The Godfather, he couldn't refuse. Look, he's probably not the best player on the planet, but he's certainly very close, if not the best. And he's a top talent, 23 years old. The initial deal that they got him to get out of Monaco always, for me, was a bit bizarre because they loaned him for a year. And then, obviously because they brought Neymar in, they couldn't do that transfer from Monaco. Paid nearly as close as 180 million euros for him with add-ons and all bonuses. He's getting a ridiculous deal. And by the way, this deal's ridiculous. Wait till it ends in 3 years' time if he has any success again. And I don't see why he wouldn't with PSG. He's going to get another ridiculous contract in 2 years or 3 years' time. So it's the start of... Look, this has happened to him already. The deal from Monaco was pretty laughable in comparison to what most players were on in French football, because PSG are on a completely different level for any other club in France, which they cannot even compete against.
And I know you've spoken about it before, about how in England the signing on fee is done very different. We even talked about it yesterday. It tends to be in France, as you know, it's up front. 150 million euro is reportedly the fee, signing on fee for this new contract. I mean, it's just, again, it's more mind-boggling figures. 150 million straight into his bank account after signing this new deal. And I mentioned La Liga. Well, then they're not happy. There was a statement put out by La Liga, which in itself is quite strange that a league would decide to put out a statement like this. You might have understood it perhaps a little bit from Real Madrid, because they're the team that thought they were going to get Kylian Mbappe. But you mentioned there about the deal that initially took him from Monaco to PSG, which was that loan deal, presumably to get around FFP. And that is something that they have mentioned, La Liga, in their deal. They say it is scandalous that a club like PSG, which last season reported losses of more than 220 million euros after accumulating losses of more than 700 million euros in prior seasons, with a squad cost of around 650 million for this season, can close such an agreement, while those clubs that could afford the hiring of the player without seeing their wage bill compromised are left without being able to sign him. It's a very lengthy statement. Clearly they're not happy with this FFP situation and the fact that PSG are being allowed to continue to fund themselves in the way that they are. I mean, you could say it's sour grapes a little bit by La Liga, especially when you sometimes look at the financial situations of some of the Spanish clubs. But it's quite bold, and it's quite, as I said before, I'm using the word mind-boggling quite a lot, but it is, eye-opening that La Liga are trying to get involved in this situation and have taken it to basically UEFA, saying they need to look into this. They're not happy with it. Yeah,
I find it quite hilarious, really, because La Liga has signed Galacticos, certainly at Real Madrid, has allowed their deals to go through, and they do have to tick the box when clubs sign players that, okay, it fits within the financial demands that these clubs have. Barcelona, did they look at the deal when obviously Lionel Messi signed for 470 million euros in a 4-year contract? Now, you talk about ridiculous deals, although he was the best player in the world. La Liga is very guilty of allowing their clubs, because they want their league for television rights all over the world to be the biggest, okay? And they've allowed their two biggest clubs to get themselves in serious trouble on a regular basis because of the type of deals and contracts and transfers their clubs, under their umbrella, have allowed to happen. So I don't get it how La Liga thinks they've got any right to speak about other leagues. I question French football, or certainly PSG. They're far more capable of doing these deals than certainly Barcelona have been, and Real Madrid.
Well, they say as well, La Liga wishes to state that this type of agreement attacks the economic stability of European football, putting at risk hundreds of thousands of jobs and the integrity of the sport, not only in European competitions, but also in domestic leagues. But as you rightly point out, history shows that Barcelona, Real Madrid were quite happy to spend the big bucks when they had the money rolling in.
Okay, well, have you said to me, out of all the major leagues, which country has had the most problems with clubs going through the floor on their fine? Valencia, Malaga. That's without mentioning Barcelona, of what's happened to them. They've allowed some of their clubs to do some of the most ridiculous deals and grow as clubs in their top flight. Spain has been the most guilty. Not Germany, not the Premier League, not France. Loads of their clubs have had financial issues that are, some of them have been irreversible. That's immense problems for certain clubs.
So it's a new 3-year deal that he has agreed at PSG. You've mentioned he's just 23, so there's plenty of time for him to continue his career, and whether whether with PSG,
he'll be negotiating again next year.
But what I wanted to ask you, is there any tinge of disappointment that this clearly, it feels as though is a contract more for money than anything else?
Well, he was brought up in France and in Paris, so he's got a lot of loyalty. And when he went from Monaco to PSG, there was going back to his roots, really. So I understand why he wants to stay. I don't believe that any club would give the rights to him to have a say on transfers. That it just would not. And team managers or organisers, that is not going to happen. You could never have a player being allowed to make decisions that, apart from his own contract and how he plays, that, how the club is run and who they buy and bring in. So I'm not surprised, because PSG have literally done everything in their powers to try and get a deal over the line to keep him. Because imagine if he leaves the football club. They brought in Lionel Messi, they brought in Neymar over the first years. This is the first time where they've been the vultures, and now someone's taking one of their players. Yeah. Okay, his contract was up, but they've tried to stop that because they want to stay the power of PSG. Yeah. And obviously, winning the Champions League is vital to that football club, certainly next year. And it's been vital every year, and they can't get over the line. So I think they've just used their muscle, which, by the way, Real Madrid have been doing for years. So, they've always used their muscle to entice players to come to that football club, because they're one of the biggest in the world.
Yeah, huge contract news then emerging this weekend that Kylian Mbappe has agreed to stay at PSG, turning down what would have been a huge financial move as well to Real Madrid, it probably has to be said.